when I mean, you trying to tell me where I live affects how I do? You trying to tell me my finances affect things, my intellect, my social, my spiritual, my occupational, those things affect me? They do. And sometimes we have self-inflicted things upon us because we don't know which door to go through.
Welcome back to What's Up With You, everybody. Tonight, we got my homegirl, Khadijah. She's a healer, a former military vet, and she's going to teach us about the 8 dimensions of wellness. Tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by the I Am Chels X Store. To support the movement, go to www.iamchelsxstore.com for inspirational merch, apparel, and more. And shout out to my man AJ Throwback too. If you don't like my merch, you can go buy his at bamllc.net/shop batch. Madam Khadijah, military vet, got a book coming out, The Healer. What's good? What's up with you?
Hey, thank you so much. I'm doing good. I can't complain. Doing fabulous. How's your day going?
It's been good. I had to think
That's
about
good.
it. I haven't had any hiccups today. I've been in a good mood all day.
That's good.
I got some good sleep last night.
That's even better. That's a plus. That's really important.
I work nights, so I don't always get good sleep. So it felt good to sleep in my bed last night.
That's
So,
good.
the 8 dimensions of health. What
Yes.
are they? What are they?
So we have 8 dimensions of health and wellness, and you have spiritual, you have financial, you have occupational, and those 3 need to be categorized together. You have environmental, and what I mean by environmental and emotional, I have my notes. Environmental, emotional, financial, I put in a cluster. And then my next cluster is social, intellectual, and then I put physical. And then the occupational can go with spiritual. A lot of times we don't add our spiritual to our occupational. So that's how I have it listed in my notes. But I also have it tagged along with specific things that go a little bit deeper in that column as well. But those are the 8 dimensions. There's more, but those are the 8 primary dimensions of health and wellness.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So you telling me after I master all of these 8, I gotta figure out some other joints too?
There's more. Yes, there's always more. And you know, the thing about it that I love about the 8 dimensions of health and wellness, because it gives us a blueprint of where to start. Because every person's door of cycles is not the same as the other person's door of cycles. Some people may see themselves repeat the same thing over and over again, and they don't know why. Either you're in an environment that you're not supposed to be in, that you're not growing, or intellectually, it's somewhere you need to be. Environment plays a lot to do with what you are putting out. So when I mean, you trying to tell me where I live affects how I do? You trying to tell me my finances affect things, my intellect, my social, my spiritual, my occupational, those things affect me? They do. And sometimes we have self-inflicted things upon us because we don't know which door to go through. And the thing that gets me is, if I can go there, if I can be transparent, you can't diagnose and put everything under the same umbrella.
Okay.
What may work for one person may not work for the next person. So we say, okay, well, depression. Depression doesn't just come from your environment. It also comes from the things that you consume in your body, that you eat as well. One of the good fun facts I like to talk about, I went to Benedict College in the military for public health. And after that, I went to the military for 10 years and I studied food and agriculture. And when I bind those 2 worlds together along with my traditional culture, being that my mom is from East Africa, I bring a lot of those things together because a lot of times I grew up in the United States, I grew up in a denomination. And sometimes in denominations, I love denominations, we kind of just go for one point of healing. But when I talk to people in general, I say, look at those 8 dimensions. So let's make it real simple where everyone can understand, where it's not too hard to understand. If I look at the color blue, it's going to make me calm. I might not need anxiety pill for that. I may have eating something like sugar or salt, and it has got my electrolytes off balance. So I might want to go eat some green beans. So what does that have to do with everything? Green beans come from the earth. That's your environment. It affects your liver. Most time when you ever wake up and just in a bad mood, it's like, I'm just upset, angry. I don't know why I'm angry. Because it's something in your body that has rested in your liver, and your liver is responding. A lot of people don't understand that until you get too late and you're in the hospital, or you're in a state where you have to be medicated, or you're in a state where you don't know what to do, you're confused, you're stagnated. So that's why the 8 dimensions of health and wellness is so important. The music we listen to, the foods we eat, the people we communicate with, our spiritual encounters, our occupational jobs we go to every day. Sometimes we go to jobs and we're so stressed out because people around you are not always balanced. So when you come encounter with someone that's unbalanced, you always are drained. And people say, oh no, I'm good. No, most time when you're drained, you're messing with your lymphatic system, you're messing with your nervous system, you're messing with your bowels, all that, your brain. You ever was like, man, I was about to go do something. What was I about to go do again? Your brain reacts to all those things. And like when we read the saying of the heart being played, like at MUSC down here in Charleston, South Carolina, we can go to church and clap for hours, and don't get it wrong, and stomp and clap. But what else in this environment can I use if I'm not from that culture? Music. What type of music? Not the 808. Of course, we love 808, but the harp. The harp. The higher the frequency. You ever got in your car and just turn on classical music after a stressful day? Try it and let me know what happens. It balances your body out. And that's why it's important to know which dimension you need to be in. Because every dimension is not needed to be medicated. Every dimension is not needed to be labeled as schizophrenia or labeled as something that's wrong. It's just you're not in the right dimension. You can have all other dimensions straight and not have that financial dimension straight, and you can't be able to do things that you would like to do in your region. And like a lot of times you say, how can I help others if I don't help myself? That's what the areas of health and wellness are about.
Wow, that's a lot. Do you know who came up with the wheel? Who created the wheel? Who was the smart guy or lady who was like, I'm about to make this a wheel?
We don't have a pinpoint exactly all the way who came up with the wheel. When I learned about the wheel, I learned about it in public health. And we didn't have a person that was stamped and labeled as, oh, this is the founder of. And I've been digging and digging and digging, and I haven't found any of the founders of it. All I've seen was people take that and grow, add more to it. So.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. You seem very knowledgeable about it. When you look out in society at large, or you could just look at America, right? What do you think is the dimension that most of us have an issue with, or that we have as a collective?
Oh, wow. Identity. We have an identity crisis, which will be combined with intellectual and environmental. I think we have those two are one of the most troubled areas.
So what is it that you see that makes you say that?
Because a lot of times we think we are an environment. We put in environments, we put it into places like Charlotte, North Carolina. You remember the history of Charlotte, North Carolina? If you have a chance to go look up Charlotte, North Carolina, it's almost like like Wall Street almost. And when it got tore down and they began to put new industries in Charlotte, the environment was conducive for success. But people got moved to outskirts. And when that environment shifted, it may have made people feel as though they're not worthy, they're not valuable, they're not talented, they don't have what it takes to get what it needs to be done, and they do. It's just the environment changed, so the intellect also had to change. And then we look at 2 or 3 generations down the line, and we'll say, well, they're locked up in jail or X, Y, X, Y, Z. But you didn't look at the dynamics of when that environment changed. When that environment changed, the intellect changed. And sometimes when your intellect is challenged and you keep having people tell you you can't do it, and you don't see any of your own You say, okay, well, I'll dumb it down. All right, I'll let it go. I'll dumb it down. So then what happens is your DNA receives that. Your DNA realizes, okay, something's changing. Something's not quite right. So let me find the next thing. And then we get off from our purpose. And when we get off from our purpose, that means that even our social changes. What we eat changes. How we communicate changes. We don't speak life no more. We speak about death. Or we talk about things that happened years ago and we keep replaying it because we're stuck in a dimension in that cycle. And we don't have anyone to tell you that, hey, you know what? Now you need to go to your spiritual dimension. Look into your spiritual dimension and find out what can you pull out from there. Or they won't say, let's go to your physical dimension. And let's see if we can balance those things out, because behind every door is always an exit. You're always exiting a door. But we get stuck. And that's one of the biggest things I see in society right now. We get stuck. And once we get stuck, that intellect identifies with somebody else. It happens a lot. So what you had a passion for and you love to do, all of a sudden, because things shifted, you begin to do something else. You're on another path and you're trying to make everybody else happy. And it affects a lot of people. And I don't want to go too far in it, but that's some of the things that lead to suicide. And suicide is not just physical death. Suicide is spiritual death as well.
So if we collectively have an identity problem, which obviously creates an individual identity problem. If I come to you and I'm like, I have all of these things going on, environment and all the other things, and you come to the conclusion through talking to me that I have this identity issue, how do you help me re-identify with my original being? What do we do?
I would start with the spiritual part of it, because spiritual doesn't mean church. Spiritual means balancing of yourself. So what that means is, how can you begin to know who you are if you're always talking, if you're always moving, if you're always going? We will have to take a moment where we get to a quiet place, and we will have to begin to meditate. A lot of times I see people do all kinds of things on social media, and I don't follow everything that's dark, and I don't follow everything that's supposed to be light, because healing is for all. So one of the things I would say is spiritual, because you got to have that healing internally. How will we do it? We will begin to sit with yourself for a while. Sit with yourself. Some people cannot sit with themselves for 30 minutes. They can't do it. Begin to sit with yourself. And this is something I want to bring up. That's why we always say never neglect to assemble themselves together. That's what that's about. Coming together, because that energy is going to be there. And believe it or not, in that time, you begin to get thoughts, you begin to get your aspirations, your desires, and your focus. And you'll be like, where did I get that from? I don't know. Or this is, oh yeah, I remember I used to like to do that. And it's going to come back, but you don't spend time with yourself. So that's self, is that spiritual time that you have with yourself. And that's where I would start at.
Have you ever read The Power of Now?
Yes, I did. It's a while ago, though. I'm trying to see if I have my book show here. I believe I did The Power of Now. And then I also read the book When to Say Yes or No.
Oh, really?
Or When to Say Yes. Yeah. I might be getting the title mixed, but I had to read that back in college some years ago. I'm not that old, don't I?
You talking about you had to read The Power of Now a long time ago, a while ago?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna go look.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go look, and I'm gonna share it with you, because I have a bunch of books upstairs, but I believe I did.
Okay. The reason I asked is because that was one of the books that I read that popped me open to the reality that I am not the thoughts in my mind. And it sounds like that's what you're talking about. The ability to, I haven't found a perfect way of explaining it, right? But it's like, the thoughts are the clouds and I am the sky. Or the movie is playing, but I am the screen. But we get so self-identified with the thoughts, and then they become the leader instead of us just allowing them to go on about their business the way they're gonna do anyway, without us necessarily having to be dragged down its rabbit holes. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Along the lines of that, I would say that I am getting towards that because a lot of us are trained when we begin to go into school, the public school system or any school system, you begin to change your thoughts and the way you think. And a lot of times we block out, we don't know what voice to hear from. So that's along the lines. Let's just say, for example, if we can go there real quick, you have someone say, well, something told me.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have people that are even in church, or something told me. They don't know if the Holy Spirit told them. They don't know if God told them. They don't know if it's just a great idea. And that's why our thoughts are trained. They're conformed to the ways of this world almost, because if environmental, what you're watching, what you're around, social, who you're talking to, and if you're on social media all day, your balance is already everywhere. So you don't know what thoughts you're hearing. So yeah, a lot of times we don't know our thoughts, and we don't know the positive thoughts, we don't know the negative thoughts, and that's why some people go off of emotion. They make decisions out of emotional experiences, and that's why they have self-inflicted situations.
You ever see the movie Inception?
I don't think so.
So I'm not gonna go deep into it, but it's basically a movie where they have a shared dream state, and they kidnap this guy, and they put themselves into the dream state, and they go into his subconscious, and they plant an idea in his mind. So when they come back out of the dream state, he has this idea, right? And he thinks that it's his, and it benefits the people who kidnapped him. And that's the example I always give. Is like, I remember I started wanting a new car. This was some years ago. And then I started paying attention to what I was watching. It was the NBA Finals, and every break was a car commercial. I'm like, hold up, do I really want a car, or are they incepting me to want a car?
Mm-hmm.
So I know what you're talking about. That's good. Let me ask you this, because I think the financial one is one that most people probably can identify with. In terms of the financial, let's say we found a way to attain the level of financial freedom that we wanted to. Would that necessarily assist in helping us balance the others, or would we just be like top heavy?
Financial would help balance a lot of things, because you can control your environment, you can control where you're at, you can control a lot of, in this environment, that helps us get things in this environment. So if we're talking about this environment on the terms of what people can understand, financial can get you into a whole new neighborhood. Financial can get you money to get degrees faster. It can get you to businesses. You can leave your children an inheritance. So it gives you a little bit leverage in that arena. Now, when you're talking about top heavy is when you got all the finances in the world, but you're not pouring into your other parts of your dimension. You're not pouring into your spiritual. So you're not pouring into your environmental. You're not pouring into those ways where it's going to be given a progression. The way how you can tell financially that, okay, I'm taking this financial and I'm good with my financial status. I'm good with the dimension of my finances, and you can see growth. You'll see fruits around you. You'll see your fruits show up. They'll be working. You know what I mean? Anytime you're not doing that, no matter what dimension you're in, it's not going to grow. So that's the answer to that question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I know in my mind, I'm like, you give me a boatload of money, I feel real good. I feel real well.
But you know, the thing that gets me though is, if you watch, people always say, well, a person shows you who they are, believe it. Now, this is what happens if someone gets a lot of money and they're not whole and complete. We always talk about whole and complete. And that dimension, whatever your instability is, whatever dimension you don't have, you're going to see the neglect come out. So let's say if you don't take care of your responsibility, you don't balance money, or you just spend money so sparingly, you're going to see that within a certain amount of time, you're going to be back to at a poverty level or not having it. So whatever you do not conquer, whatever you do not master, whatever you don't come face on with, you will see the fruits of that. It's not bad.
So that makes me think about how we talk about like young athletes going into the leagues and getting millions, right? my opinion, I'm kind of like, well, most of us are never gonna get a $4 million a year contract for the next 4 years. So if it were me, I wouldn't care how imbalanced I was. You about to give me this money. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I see it. I'm like, we could balance. We could balance all of that after, since you're gonna cut a check. What's your opinion on that when it's kind of like, well, maybe he's too young to have. You got a 19-year-old. Maybe he's too young to have this much money.
You want my opinion of when it comes to 19-year-old or someone getting into getting their hands on a lot of money?
Yeah.
Is I believe that it was already there. They just had to walk into it. I don't think nothing is just because. I believe it was already there. It was destined for them to get there. Because let me tell you something that I want to say about financial that I learned in a lot of groups when I do talk to people. Financial stability, the financial dimension of it, is feeling satisfied with what you have accomplished. So I want to bring this because this is one of the things that sometimes people get confused when we begin to talk about the dimension of finance. Dimension of finance could be someone making $10.50 an hour and they're satisfied because they're balanced. You can get millions and be unbalanced. And you have those that want to commit suicide, or you be like, oh, well, they got all that money. Why are they doing that for? Why are they acting like that? Because they're not satisfied. And that's what we teach when we talk about the dimension of finance. Some people say, well, give me a bunch of money. I'm ready for the money. Because some people already been through a struggle and they know how to have stability. They know how to put everything in place where it needs to be. So that's what we teach about it, because you can be able to be at McDonald's, you can be at Walmart, you can be at corporate, you can be military. It's all about how you are satisfied with your income. So I believe if you're 19 and you're making a bag of $1 million, that's already granted. It was already granted to you. It's already in that fix, because the other dimensions you already worked on to get there.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Let's talk about existential. That's the one that interests me the most. Right?
Which one?
On the chart that I have, it's called existential, which is the one about like your purpose, like the meaning of life. I want to ask you this: in your opinion, or from what you may know, do we give our own lives purpose, or is that something that's bestowed upon us by whatever it is that we want to call the divine?
Oh, I'm so glad that we're talking about that. That would be like more of the spiritual component almost, because a lot of times, if we look, let's be transparent, we have not for centuries, for decades, for years, we have not. So when you hear people say, I'm woke now, because you were sleeping, you were walking around sleeping because you already been programmed to project something that wasn't you. So now you see the cycle turning before our very eyes of people beginning to say, hey, they're beginning to awake now, and they're beginning to say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel whole, I feel complete, I feel connected with it. So I believe for a very long time, we were in environments that help kind of dumb that down, if that makes sense. You know, and this is going to sound, I did a study at First Marion University in psychology, and I hope I don't lose a lot of people in this. We give ourselves based upon a lot of times what we see.
Say it again.
We give ourselves unto people based off of what we see. So sometimes we can be toxic, loyal. We can be loyal, but being toxic to something that is not us. And you never seen someone that keep going back, keep going back, keep going back, keep going back, keep going back. I'm giving myself, but you're out of order, you're out of place, because that's not your road. That's not your place of, that's not your strategic place of where you need to be. So a lot of times we outpour into what we've been given. I can't give you something that I haven't poured into me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important for us to be accountable for ourselves. What are we, let me ask you this question. How can I carry the weight of another man? and not hurt myself?
I have to be strong enough to do it. First of all, I have to be strong enough to carry myself, right? And then I have to be fit enough physically, mentally, emotionally, and a bunch of other things, really, to be able to carry that person's weight. But even I can only carry that weight, you know, for a short amount of time. It's not something I could do forever.
And it's something, and you're right, and there's something called adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
Adrenaline is a power that you get, and you don't know where you get it from. You get that adrenaline rush from what you've seen in your eyesight, survival. I got to get through this. I got to help them up. I got to help my battle buddy. I got to help the next person. I got to. Adrenaline kicks in. Adrenaline is actually a log of things you've experienced over this lifetime. I've seen people flip cars over to save babies. That adrenaline, because they already seen it, they experienced it, they see the horrible end of it, and that's when they begin to kick in. And that's to answer your question. We give out ourselves based off what we see around us a lot of times. Because on a normal day, that wouldn't be us. So, if that makes sense.
It does for the most part. When I rewatch it, I'm gonna really ingest it. Normally, when I go back and rewatch is when I really can download information. I'm someone, when I read books, I read 2 paragraphs and then go back and be like, I'm about to read them joints again. So, something that I did want to ask you just in general though, say I am really good, or I don't know if the word will be mastered, but I'm really good at one particular aspect of wellness. Should I expect the dimension to ebb and flow as I go through life? Like,
you know what? You know what? I'm glad we're talking about that. If you master one level, you validate that level. Nobody else validates that. So then you know you have a healthy going forward. So you're going to align to go to the next thing. So when you go to the next thing, you don't need someone to pat you on the back and say, hey, you mastered that. You already know you mastered that, and things are going to begin to work. So, okay, I'm in a good environment right now. I'm loving where I'm at. The energy is good. I'm feeling the vibe. So I'm going to go probably take some classes on gardening, and it begins to flow. There's no kickback. It begins to flow. And then you get into gardening, and you love gardening. Gardening is your passion. And then you start your own gardening business. And you went through that door. You mastered environmental. You've mastered your social. Now you're about to master financial, because you're about to start a business that you love, a gardening business. Now you master your finances. So all that's going good, and then you begin to say, you know what, I see there's a charity over there I want to give to. That's spiritual. Spiritual is not just going to church and no. Spiritual is helping people along the way, along their path. Healing is what you do. You get up in the morning and you say, hey, let me tell you so and so and so. You mastered that part. No one has to tell you you mastered that, because then people are going to come because you already mastered it. No one comes to something that's not mastered. No one gets something out of a vending machine that's not working. You know? And that's how I look at it. Because it's going to flow. It's going to naturally start flowing, because you don't have to try hard, because you mastered it. You don't need for no one to validate that. You're moving on to the next thing. And that's what I love about that. That's a great question, because a lot of times we wait and say, well, I don't know if I quite mastered it yet. Or I don't know. Well, I did master it. You'll know, because you'll feel free and complete, which is whole and complete. I don't need for you to validate me. Thank you for appreciating me. But I don't need you to tell me that I got through that door. The same way you probably went through the academy. You know, listen, you went through the academy. Do you need someone to say, hey, you went through the academy? You said, oh, maybe I should go again. No, we did that already. We did that.
I'm good.
You know, and that's the same thing. That's the same thing.
I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot, because I talk about you set your value. You have to know yourself and know your worth and all of that good stuff. And you're right, because there's certain aspects of my life where I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't really care what you think. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know the work that I put in. I know the losses that I've taken. I know the battles that I've had. There's nothing you could say to convince me that I haven't figured this part out. Now, this other part, I might be like, hey, what you think about this?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part.
Yeah. It's very. I was on the phone with my man the other day, real good friend, like a brother, and I was telling him, I said I was on a walk, and I told him, I said, it feels so good to be. It feels so freeing to just be who you are and not really care about what these other people have to think or say of you. Like, look, this is me, and if you rock with me, cool, and if you don't, that's even cooler, because then I don't got to worry about you being in my zone.
Right. Yeah, that's that toxic loyalty. You toxic loyalty. You're being loyal to something that's not even worth the loyalty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let me ask you this, because this is the a part that I can't really conceptualize with the dimensions. What role, or like, how does the ego come into play?
Mm. The ego comes into play because the dimensions are set up around a tree. If you ever see it, it's based around a tree. We are that tree. And the ego comes in when it is waiting for other people to give them the go. Because if some people have to be applauded, and if they're not applauded, then their ego is shot. If they're applauded, then their ego goes up even higher. So I'm going to take you on this journey real quick. It's a 30-second journey.
Let me put my seatbelt on. Hold on.
Buckle up. Let me tell you, we are here. We have ancestors that come before us, and we have a generation coming after us. Ego starts from your bloodline, and I know someone's going to ask me about this. Ego, there's good ego, and then there's unbalanced ego. I don't like to say bad ego, unbalanced ego. You need an ego, but you don't need an unbalanced ego. Unbalanced ego will be jealousy, anger, wrath, rage. A balanced ego is, I know I come from a family of. That can mean I know I know my generational blessings and I know my generational curses. And that's where my ego will come from. Consciously or unconsciously. You probably had someone 4 generations that owned a bank. Or you could have 4 generations ago where someone made moonshine, was alcoholic, or a scholar. It's something in our body, in our mind, in our energy, in our flow that's going to let you know about your ego. Your ego is either going to be, I know who I am, and when I show up, you know I'm showing up. Or your ego is going to be not sure, competing, always want to be above or be pushed to a point where you push people away. A good ego to keep you balanced is you want everyone to win and survive. So for me, when an ego is unbalanced, it's because it's been some type of let's go there, some type of trauma or some type of discord or origin that was twisted like a wicker, a twist in that origin somewhere, and that's where that comes from. Okay. And someone put something on here real quick. Can I answer it?
Yeah, let me read it for you, and then you can go into it. Honey Wordsmith, my audio lady, Steph said, "What if you don't know your bloodline?"
Let me put it like this: you always know your bloodline, and hear me out. Your bloodline is nothing unfamiliar. What you're repeating, you're not just repeating; it's some type of habit. Your bloodline is your character. Your bloodline is what you have a yearning for. Oh, I got a yearning for this. I just want to go do this. That's your bloodline. That don't change. Your bloodline is, when I say character, a character of a person doesn't really change like that. The character of a person is going to say, well, these are innate things in my DNA that I love to do. You don't just wake up and say, hey, I want to go build a boat. It's something in your family genes that's there. And a lot of times we've been told these stories of these miraculous things that didn't really exist the way they tell us. But let me tell you this. Let me get a little bit different. A little bit, not lower, but a little bit different. I don't know. I was adopted. So I haven't been in my mother's bosom but for so long before I came to America. Years later, my name is Khadijah Abdullah. Then it got changed. I am my bloodline. I am my DNA. When I show up, I'm that cub that got taken from a land, and I'm in this land, but I think I'm a cat. But everyone around me can see, okay, you're not a cat. I got to stop, and I got to say, okay, let me get this 30 minutes to myself every day and begin to see, who am I? Who am I? Why do I like to dance? You just don't wake up and want to dance because everybody can't dance. I want to inspire someone today. Everybody don't want to wake up and inspire nobody. Some people don't even want to get up and say nothing. Or I just love to cook. Or I just love to, solve problems. That's your bloodline. That's your DNA. That's when you show up. And that's why a lot of times I'm holding my head down just a little bit. They try to take your identity. It's not about race. It's about identity. Identity. So that's the answer to that. I could go a little bit deeper, but that's the answer to that with the bloodline. And a lot of times what is natural is deemed as bad. It's deemed as, let me script you from this. I don't like to go into race because in other countries and cultures, there's tribes. There's different things. And I think we get stuck on that. We're stuck on the wrong thing. And that's an environmental thing. That's death. That's not life. That's death. So that's why I try to choose my words wisely. But that's how you know. And that's how you know.
Okay, I like that. We are the summation of our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
So I am them and they are I. From a spiritual perspective, meaning, how do you define spiritual? That which we do not, the energy that exists that we don't really see, but we know is present. Mm-hmm. Are our ancestors here with us, in your opinion? Outside of our physical being, right? Are they still whole, intact themselves on some plane of existence? In your opinion?
I believe that a lot. I believe that.
Okay. I believe in reincarnation. So, I mean, I think when I think of my ancestors, I'm like, that was just another version of me. That's how I see it. I look at nature and I see reincarnation. I see leaves fall, they go into the ground. Next spring, the tree has leaves again. Why would we be any different?
I believe that a lot, and I'm gonna go there because when we did the study at First Marine University, and we would begin to connect the tabs to the brain, you see the electricity and all that good stuff flowing. People they call schizophrenic, I don't call them schizophrenic. They're literally seeing in another realm. A lot of times we say, oh, they're crazy. So what we call crazy, could it really truly be reality? Or we have already been stationed to believe something else. So I believe that our ancestors are still here. I believe that people see things all the time. I saw something dark pass by. I saw something light pass by. Oh, I thought I saw. No, you didn't thought you saw. You're trying to talk yourself out of what you saw. And some people are so connected, then they say, oh, I'm going crazy. You're not going crazy. Like even for example, putting mud on someone's eye, and then they take the mud off the eye and they say trees are walking.
They walking.
So the trees been walking. Trees probably been running. There's put the mud back on your eye. So, for me, I believe that our ancestors are here. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that we transition. I don't believe that we pass away. And that's why it's important about these dimensions because of health and wellness, because I believe like this, and I'm going to take it there real quick and we can go there. I believe we master Earth and we don't master the spiritual side of it. So we keep repeating it. We keep repeating it. It's some type of glitch in our soul. We keep repeating it over and over and over again. And that's why I'm so heavy on telling people about those dimensions. Because let's say that you then came back, you reincarnated, and you don't master the emotional part of it. And let's say we can go back a few chapters and you didn't master your emotions, and let's say, God forbid, you drove your van off the bridge because of you didn't control your emotions. You didn't get your emotions stable enough. Or let's just say you came in this generation and you jumped from the Fortune 500 building because of your finances. Then you got to repeat it again. So, and if we're going to transition, whenever we transition, I believe on a spiritual realm, I believe that our answers are there to guide us, get it right, get it correct this time around. Because when we leave here, I believe it, that when we transition, we have a whole nother assignment that we have to do. But how can we, if we're here, if we're stuck here doing the same thing? And sometimes people don't take their mind to that strategic management position. And they just say, oh, I'm just here, living here. But it's so much more than that. Spiritual, it's so much more.
So I'm going to tell you a thought that I've always had that I've never really told. I'm sure I've told my wife, people, close friends, but I don't think I've ever said it on live, right? I've had this thought in my mind, and not that I believe it, but it's just an idea. What if everybody else who has ever lived has completed their assignment, and this whole thing, and everybody in it is waiting for me to get my shit together? That's how I feel sometimes. Like when I die in the over, they like, hey dog, we've been waiting for eons, like for you to get this part right. In my mind, like, you got to get this right because everybody else, Adam, is waiting on you, dog.
You know what? I can't even respond. That's a good way to think about it.
That's how I'm feeling.
That's a good way to think about it. Man, that's something you got me thinking now. You got me thinking like, hey.
Yeah, like everybody just sitting around, like all of you people out there, the 10 people on the line, my wife, my kids, my parents, everybody else, they understood the assignment, right? And I'm the one guy. And they're like, hey, dog, you know, we tired of playing these roles. We trying to move on. Can you please figure this thing out?
Right. Wow, that'd be amazing because I think we all fall into that group. I'm pretty sure someone would be like, Khadijah, go to the next dimension. What are you doing? Okay, we know the 8. What's the next one? So I totally get it. That's a good way to think because I used to think back in the day, I used to think, what if we're here and we actually completed everything? And I used to think, what if we not fighting to get to, you know, people say heaven or the glorious place? You know what I'm saying? I used to say, what if we already completed it? What if we are here because we're the champions, because we made it, you know? And that was a thought process that I had. What if we're here and we're all chosen? All of us are the chosen ones, but something or someone or TV or society saying you're not the chosen ones. And it's kind of like, you know, I used to think that. And that's what led my discovery of like, okay, it's got to be more to this life. Like, do I live? And then back then I used to say die. I don't say die now, but, and I started studying about in the Indian culture. I'm sorry, forgive me. I started studying some articles from India. And whenever they transition in life, they would take their ashes and put them back in the fields and there'd be beautiful flowers. And that started my journey. Like, oh my goodness. So then I went to Chinese medicine and all those kind of things like that. And I was like, wow, we really are like lost with time. And back then I said, we're really lost with time. People are really on different hemispheres. So you could be right. We might be waiting for you. I don't know. If we wait for you, come on now.
Listen, I promise y'all, I'm trying my best. We're going to get there. Now, I won't go into the long, drawn-out story of it, but because this is where the conversation is going, I'll indulge a little bit. I remember being at one with the light, and the light specifically asked me, are you sure you want to go back? Now, I don't remember in this timeline, right? I've never had an incident where I was close to death that I recall in my memory. I was real sick as a kid. I had an ear infection. They gave me amoxicillin. I had a real high temperature. So if I had to pinpoint a physical realm point where it happened, it would be there. And I just remember the light. The light was like, are you sure you want to go back? And I'm like, but I was a part of it. You know, it was like, it was the bigger, I was just like a sparkle. And I was like, yeah. This joint look dope. I'm trying to rock with it. Let me back.
Yeah.
Boom, you just caught me. I was back. So that ties into me thinking like everybody else was the light. Y'all just the light, and I was the one guy. Like we got one more left. So I don't know.
I believe that. I believe like that the thought that you may have or may have had, even in the moments of joking, you serve a bigger purpose. Everyone can't identify with that dimension. Everybody can't identify with the light. Everybody can identify with, hey, what if? Some people are scared to question the what if. I think that some people actually say, what if they might actually go into their purpose and figure out what they're supposed to be doing if they ever ask the what if, you know?
Yeah.
Because you ask the what if. You say, hey, I had that experience. I remember it. Like, what is it all about? So and that's why you're at where you're at now when it comes to healing people, you know, talking to people, encouraging people. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you said something earlier that struck a chord with me. Like, you know, you don't have to seek others' validation because it's easy, right? And just here recently, I've gotten to where I realized, like, my wife told me one day, she was like, you do realize that people come to you because to you, their problems are really simple, but to them, they're really complex. And she's like, you got to understand that that's just who you are. That's the level you have attained. So people are gonna ask you for advice on certain things. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess so. But I never knew what I wanted. For a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So to be in a space now where I have an outlet to be able to listen to people and become enlightened by others like yourself and help people who it's kind of really rewarding.
So I'm gonna take what she said and I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean by the eight dimensions of health and wellness. You're mastering the environmental, you're mastering social, you're mastering spiritual, you're mastering those things because people are coming to you because you're in position.
Wow. I'm doing a good job this time.
And what I'm saying is sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. And I always tell people, someone said, well, I didn't pass the test. I failed. No, you didn't fail anything. You just didn't have all the information you needed. Once you master it, it's like an invisible attraction. People are going to come to you. So intellectually, you don't have to try that. And the experiences you've been through in life has helped you master. You exited all those doors. You exited one door at a young boy to a teenager, you exited the next door. Young man, you exited the next door. As a grown man, exited the next door. By you exiting all those doors, you went through those dimensions of intellectual doors. So now people are going to come to you, but man, I'm just standing here, people's come asking these questions. You ask me questions, Paul, because you already went through those doors and you didn't need nobody else's approval because you already you did the work, you did the time, you showed thyself to be approved. That's what we're talking about.
I'm in raw to that.
Emotional. You went through the emotional doors that you need to go through. So when someone talks to you, you don't get all discombobulated or confused or get sucked into their world on what they're saying. You know, they can be the world is falling apart. And you can be like, wow, well, the glass is half empty. I don't see that. Or the glass is half full. And that's what we mean. Some people master those things. You can see some people, you ever be in relationships and someone just be like, just going in. And the person be like this. What we eating for dinner? You done? Because they master that emotional process. And to make it where someone may understand a little bit different, everyone don't have the same generational bondage or generational issue. Someone can probably go and be around certain environments that doesn't bother them at all versus someone that does. They can go to an environment and then just get lost. So when we talk about these different dimensions of health and wellness, these dimensions are a part of our life. It's not separate. It's every area that we go into. It's wholeness, it's learning, it's mistakes, it's growing, it's changing, it's learning. You have the will to want to do different. You have the will to want to mature in that area. I'm going to put it like this. If you want a solution, you'll look for it. Someone that wants to argue, you're going to go back and forth. But someone that's looking for an answer or a solution, they're not going to argue. They're going to find out, okay, I just want to know what the solution is. People that want to go back and forth, they don't want a solution. That's the same way in life. You're going back and forth. Do you really want a solution, or do you want to keep doing the same thing? Are you comfortable where you're at, or do you think you need to go back and get a little more experience in this? So what I mean by experience is, yeah, something probably happened in that environment or that dimension. Let's just say occupational. You got fired from a job that you like, and you feel like, okay, I'm not satisfied in this occupation that I'm in now. Sometimes you may have to take some steps back to go forward. So are you going to quit? Is the world going to end? Or are you going to say, okay, let me go to my spiritual side of myself, speak to myself and tell myself, come on, you can do it. Get up, go, go, go. Come on, get up, go, go, go. Because I might be more spiritually empowered on that end, but occupational, I'm second guessing because someone fired me. The firing, they probably have nothing to do with me. The fire probably has to do with the environment that they're in. They probably was even intimidated because I was in their environment, doing better in their environment because I didn't master the object of intellectual properties of knowing to be humble when I come in. Maybe they just don't like my humbleness, or maybe they don't like my assertiveness, or maybe they don't like when I show up, I'm showing up and I'm not trying to, I'm just showing up. Or maybe they don't like the process of that I'm doing a better job than what they are. So then we think all those identities, all those things that they're putting on to me, am I just going to stop and quit? That strengthens you. Get back up. You're going to begin to sharpen your occupational skills. You're going to say, okay, next time I go around, I might just document everything. I might not say nothing. But sometimes people will try to make you feel like in that environment of the occupation, they may try to make you feel like, okay, I don't have it all. And then what bothers me is sometimes when people get done like that, it affects their environment because their money gets low. They don't have the things they need. They may have to get food stamps. And my thing is, use of food stamps is there to help you as a supplement. But we're told, oh, it's bad. No, you have resources, but because of how you're viewing it, you can either view it as, hey, what my environment told me is good or bad. So all those things work into connecting the blocks, into connecting the pieces, because then when you come home, come on, somebody. When you come home, your physical body is already stressed out because of what happened on the occupational. Come on, somebody. So from the occupational and the physical, the spiritual and the social, then you begin to lash out at the people in your home. You know? So with that being said, that's why it's important to take that 30 minutes. When you asked me at the very beginning, how do we get in tap with ourselves? We take that 30 minutes. Let's start with 30 minutes. And begin to home in on this. If it's just sitting in silence for a moment and it's getting that balance, it's important because I want people to understand from this, the dimensions are not broken up. The dimensions are all a functioning part. And if you don't grasp it, if you don't get it, if you don't get onto it, it will take you out. But don't faint when something comes along. Sometimes we need to move. Sometimes we need to get out. Sometimes we need to exit so we can get the next thing. We're busy holding on to this, and that dimension is saying it's time to let it go because I got something greater for you in the next. And you say, okay, well, I'm not moving. I keep stagnating. Something's coming up, and this I can't take it no more. And this is happening. Okay, so now you need to go ahead and you need to figure out spiritually, or you need to figure out intellectually, or you need to figure out socially. You might want to go just hang around, or go to a poetry jam or something, or you may want to blast music in your house and do Michael Jackson moonwalk 50 times backwards. That might just make you get into a place where you good. You know, we don't know. Or environmental. You may say, you know what? I want to go to something that stimulates me. It could be going into this wilderness. Well, I don't listen. I want someone to say I said on the show to go in the wilderness and you get lost. Listen, I mean, like, go to your backyard if you can. Go to a park, look at the trees. You know what I'm saying? Breathe the air. You know, breathe. I don't say, oh, she said go to the wilderness. No. Don't do that. I don't want you to get lost. But what I'm saying is all those blocks connect. And at the end of the day, the crown of everything for me is the emotional. Because we need your crown to be balanced. We need that emotional part to be good. So therefore your ego won't go everywhere. Your ego is balanced. And you won't be taking a trip with no luggage. And people are like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? No. So those are the things that, you know, it's interesting though, because I meet a lot of interesting people in groups and things like that, and I wanted people to really understand how important the 8 dimensions of health and wellness is. If we really knew how much better our life would be if we just zone in on those 8, we'll see a change.
Yeah, I think you've done a good job of explaining it to the degree that we have in an hour. I got 2 more questions for you. How do you want the world to remember you?
Oh, I've been waiting for this question. I want the world to not remember me as Khadijah. I want the world to feel me. I want to be that person where they feel like my presence is there. I want them to feel. I want them to feel that. I want to be that energy. I want to be that voice that they can come back. If they can hear my voice, and if someone's about to give up, or someone, I want to be that voice that say, hey, you know what? Don't do that. Because we remember Maya Angelou's voice. You can feel her energy. You know, a person shows it themselves, believe them, that's who they are. That's her energy. She's here. That I don't want to. That's how I want to be felt. I want to be felt. I don't want to be just someone that came through. I want to complete my mission. I want someone to feel me. I want to be there in their darkest hour. I want to be there in that valley. I want to be able to be there and get them through it because I've been there. That's how I want to be remembered.
That's powerful.
I want to.
Steph wants to know what's up with the book. You said the book comes out in October, right?
Yes, it comes out in October and it's called Exit. And I'm excited about it. It's do you want me to go a little bit about the book?
Only if you want to.
A quick synopsis. It is about me, my life, and I'm sorry my kids came downstairs. You guys, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Put the freezy pops back. No, put the freezy pops back. So, I'm sorry. So the book is about me, my life. I was adopted. Went through horrible experiences. Till I got to my adopted dad, which I found out at the age of 18 was my biological dad. And overcoming some of those dark valleys and things that I had to get through. I have some poetry in the book. I posted one today that I finally released out. And it gets kind of deep. It gets kind of heavy. It talks about adoption, abuse. It talks about overcoming, because I talked about being a victor, not a victim. And many days where I had to be in that valley, and that valley could have wiped me out, but it didn't. And I don't think we understand. So it's a blueprint of survival. It's a blueprint that's much needed. It's a blueprint of understanding who you are and not trying to conform to what everybody else wants. It's a blueprint of validating yourself. It's a blueprint of understanding that you're here for a purpose. You survived out of everybody else and you're here. And sometimes this book is personal, but it's personal for someone else too. I want this book to be remembered as a blueprint of survival, because someone somewhere didn't make it. Someone somewhere did something and they thought it was okay. And this person is 30, 40 years old still dealing with what happened then. So that's what the book that's what the book is about. And
is it going to be on Amazon and all of that good stuff? Or your website?
It is. It's going to be on Books A Million. It's going to be on ebooks, online. I'm going to have some book signings. I have like 5 book signings that I already am signed up for. I'll be doing some live touring with the book, and I'm excited. And the reason why I'm excited is because I got a lot of reach outs from adoption agencies, and I'm a big advocate for adoption. I'm a big advocate for wholeness. I'm a big advocate for that. And so yeah, that's some of the book.
Cool. So when the book drops, please let us know. I definitely get it. I'm gonna read it. I read books. I don't read as much as I used to because I'm doing that bunch of stuff, but I try to make sure I get my reading in. So definitely let us know that. I'm gonna copy it. If you don't follow Khadijah, go ahead follow her now. That way you can be informed on when the book drops. Yeah, so that's the book part. So this is the part where some people do good and some people do bad. Top 5 dead or alive. You got to tell me the top 5 people, dead or alive, real or fictional, that you would like to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with.
Oh, okay. My birth mom. I want to have a conversation with her.
Okay, mom.
My birth mom. I want to have a conversation with her. I want to be able to have a conversation with my dad. He has dementia, and I have questions. I want to have a conversation with my great grandmother. I want to have a conversation with my great 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 grandmother, and I want to have a conversation with my great 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 grandmother.
Oh wow,
I want to.
so that was
I
quick,
want
easy, and painless. You had them 5 lined up.
yes, I want to talk to all of them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. So I appreciate you enlightening us about the 8 dimensions of wellness. You're gonna have to send me the website. Make sure I put it in the description section for you. And when you get the book link, let me know later. When the book, but I always give my guests an option to ask me a question if you desire to. So if you have a question, this is your moment.
Okay. Yes. I have a question for you. What do you think healing means?
Ooh, what do I think healing means? How would I quantify that? I think of healing as accepting the objective reality you have experienced first and foremost, meaning like you're not avoiding it. And then you're actually contending with it in some fashion. You're analyzing who, what, how, where, and why does this thing affect me? And how can I move forward in life knowing that I have these scars and I can still be in a state of not really happy, but and I'm not completely sold on the idea that you're healed and it never comes back. Like I have when I was a kid, I don't even remember this. I cut my hand. I don't know if you can cut my hand on something, and I got until this day, this thing itches. Right? So I'm healed, but I still carry the scars. But I'm at peace. Now, that example probably is perfect because I don't remember it. But I've healed from other things. I'm okay with where those things are. They happen to pop up in that's off the cuff without, that's my term paper on my definition of healing. How did I do?
You did good. Yeah, you did a whole, man, it's a whole nother level. You said a lot of great stuff in there. So yes.
Thank you. I didn't know how. I mean, I answer questions every day off the cuff, and most of them, my mind's like, boom, I got the answer. The healing one, I'm like, ooh, started buffering. I'm about to hit the camera, but hold on, I got the bathroom right quick. let me go Google the answer.
Oh Lord. Yes. That was good.
That's what's up. That makes me happy. I absolutely have enjoyed sitting there talking with you for the past hour. I feel more enlightened on the 8 dimensions of wellness. Looking forward to actually looking into it. I think personally, I've reversed a lot of it all, and I just didn't have a label. So it's cool to have something that I look at. Like, oh, so that's what that was. Now we just gotta go get the bag, baby. Now we gotta go get the big bag.
Yes. Exactly.
So, I appreciate you. I love you. You've been real. If you ever need anything, hit me up. I'm gonna DM you my number, so you'll have my number. And if you ever need call.
Most definitely, most definitely. And I'll get you the website when we get all our products and stuff back up, and all that, the book, the products, because it's an all together oneness. Healing is not just in one area. So
Cool.
we'll have the herbs and vitamins and antibiotics and all natural antibiotics. We have all that stuff back up real soon.
Good, good, good. So you get it up, you send it to me, and we'll help promote it. Appreciate you, love you. Be safe. Hey, real quick, everybody out there, if you see it, if you're watching this live, you see it on the replay, take your power back. Natural by Khadijah. Peace.